Hello, everyone, and welcome into crushthestreet.com. I am Kenneth Amaduri, and I'm joined today with a very special guest, a returning guest, CEO and founder of Koios Beverage Corp, Chris Miller. We're going to be discussing money trends and as it surrounds health and wellness, and it really lends itself to Chris's company, Koios, this beverage company which focuses on health drinks and really a solution, an alternative to Coca-Cola, Red Bull, and all of these, highly caffeinated drinks out there that people are looking for alternatives for. I mean, there's a real shift in trends that are happening right now with millennials that really is, everyone cares about now. And I think that it has a lot to do with education and what we're reading and what we're finding out about foods that we thought were okay with our bodies, okay for our bodies. But without any further ado, Chris, thanks for coming on Crush the Street with me once again.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks for having me. It's always good to catch up with you.
Yeah, well, if you've been on my email list, everyone out there, I've been all over covering Koios Beverage Corp this week. So we had the opportunity to speak with Chris Miller today. So this is a real opportunity. Chris, obviously huge trends are coming from consumer beverages and wellness. Let's just start off here. How big of a deal is this? How big of a trend is health and wellness?
I mean, it's massive. I mean, I know we only slated 20 minutes for this call. I could talk on this subject for 2 hours. I should probably give a TED talk, but it's massive. I mean, if you look at food and beverage, which we're in as well, it's a $15 trillion industry on its own. And I think health and wellness is leading the growth in food and beverage. If you look at companies like Halo Top, Beyond Burger, which obviously had a huge IPO and is crushing. Consumers are smarter than ever. You asked before we started recording, why is that? And I think we live in a digital information age, and everybody's a lot wiser and more informed about what they put in their bodies. And people are demanding better products. And there's a huge wave of companies that are innovating in the space, us being one of them. If you look at the growth, compounded annual growth rate year over year on just health and wellness products, it's double digits and expected to be double digits. I think another thing for investors too that's exciting is you look at some of the hottest stock in the last 20 years was Monster. I don't think a lot of people know that, but if you look at Monster's growth, it was massive. And it's companies like that and like us, especially us as we innovate in organic and health and wellness, is even during slow times in the economy, people spend money on making themselves feel good. Yeah, go ahead.
I have 3 young kids, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 9-month-old now. And
you're tired.
I'm tired, right? I'm exhausted. But you know what? One thing I notice with other parents my age and, with kids our age, it's almost like child abuse. I get that feeling if I were to take them to McDonald's or give them a Coke now. I mean, not everyone is ultra sensitive, but I mean, we're just in a different era of the times I grew up in the 90s, and and how parents would give certain treats and snacks, and things weren't organic, things weren't farm to table, all of these different things.
Kenneth, we grew up on Pop-Tarts and Tang, right? Look at the amount of ADHD, insomnia, anxiety that our generation has, which is pretty wild, right? I mean, you think we live in the most prosperous time in the world. Why do so many people have what I would call mental disorders? And a lot of it's diet. A lot of it's just poor, we're ingesting poor things, and it starts at a young age. And it's an epidemic. And I think, where Koios started with me creating a product to help me get off Adderall, which I think is the next epidemic, which is stimulants. People want to live healthier, longer, faster. On top of that, we used to live in an industrial age where you didn't have to use your brain as much. You didn't, things were more physical. Today we live in an analytical time, and I don't think our brains have evolved to keep up with it, frankly, which is why you have guys like Elon Musk talking about biotech, infusing our brains with AI. But yeah, people want to be faster, better, smarter, better, longer, and they understand what it takes now. And so there's a huge push You know, and I tell people, you know, investing in Koios, if you could have invested in kombucha 10 years ago, would you have done it? And I think the emphatic answer is yes. And I think Koios is one of those plays. We're sort of the next kombucha on the market. You know, we're a very white space product, and you know, we fill a tremendous space in the market that's growing like crazy. And yeah, because the consumers are demanding it. Even millennials, right? Like a lot of these interviews, people always say, "What about baby boomers and baby boomers?" It's true, and they want to live, they want to be healthier and more vital as well. But I think the younger generations are really driving markets now. And those kids, those, you know, who even work at bars and they don't make a lot of money, they'll spend $6 on a beverage, no matter what's happening in the economy, because they want to be healthy. People aren't sacrificing their health anymore to save money. They just aren't. And even some of the big players, you know, people who maybe don't make as much income, there are healthier for you options even in McDonald's, and there's a reason for that, because the world's demanding it.
Really is. And I almost think it has to do with the internet, just instant education, social media, everyone posting articles about, you know, how good or bad certain restaurants are, how good or bad certain foods are. And we're all getting educated in the same way. And one of the things that we talked about this before this interview started is a lot of these trends that we're in, you know, whether it's precious metals or cryptocurrency or cannabis or whatever, they tend to be very cyclical. But when it comes to our health, I almost feel like this is not going to be like a trend that goes away. This is like science moving forward.
Yeah,
This
sure.
is something that's just going to keep on going, because there's really no unseeing or undoing the education that the world is getting, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of the things you mentioned are really based on technology, and those technologies get better, and then they make certain other technologies obsolete. To your point, there's never going to not be a need for better for you products, for creating a better human race. That'll never not be a thing. Everybody wants, and again, with the age we live in, the analytical age, people are struggling to keep up. It's tough. You know, I always joke in these interviews that even when you get in your car, because it's so digitized, your car will yell at you every day. It'll say, you need gas, or, hey, your tire pressure's low. And there's so much input. Yeah, being bigger, better, faster, stronger, that concept will never go away. It'll always be a thing, and it'll always do well even in bad markets, right? You look at makeup companies, energy drink companies, they always do really well during the worst times, because people aren't going to sacrifice health to save a few pennies. They just aren't, especially with how educated we all are now on how important it really is.
Chris, you alluded to it already, but talk about, if you would, a little more about your personal story and how it lends itself to Koios and the need for it, how it really sparked your career. I think it's just fascinating and, you know, a powerful testimony as to how this all unfolded.
Yeah. So, you know, I think like, well, first of all, I played rugby and football in college, so I've always been to, you know, what people call biohacking. You know, back then it was just about, you know, getting as big as you could. When I got into the workforce, I realized my muscles had nothing to do with my mental output. I've always struggled with mental disorders, from ADHD to being on the spectrum of autistic or autism. And eventually as an adult, I got prescribed Adderall, and Adderall really started to ruin my life. It's a pretty terrible drug. You know, it's one molecule away from being methamphetamine. If it's over abused, it can really do damage to the body. And I think as this analytical age gets bigger, faster, stronger, and we can't keep, our brains haven't evolved to keep up, people are going to keep self-medicating, right? People are going to keep doing stimulants. They're going to keep taking Adderall. And I think it's our next epidemic that we face as a country of, how do you help people perform without destroying the engine, right? Like if you had a car, if you're into cars and you have a NOS feature on your car because you drag race, and you use NOS every time you go to the grocery store, your engine's going to blow out in 2 weeks. And I think a lot of people are headed towards blowout mentally and physically, because we're trying to do too much. We try to multitask too much. And so for me, I had sort of hit rock bottom with my health. I'd self-medicated so much that I started to physically deteriorate. And I started looking for a better option, and we worked with some of the, you know, the smartest minds in the world to develop our supplement, which took off. And then, and then we decided to put it in a beverage, and it's done very well because, you know, again, people are clamoring for, which is why, again, from an investor standpoint, why are all the big beer companies now calling themselves beverage companies? Because even they realize that people want something better. And that's why, this field is so exciting, because we're in such a prime time for food development, right? And it's super exciting. So that's sort of how we started. It was my own need to get healthy, and it took off from there.
So let's talk a little bit about the business, if you would. I mean, my goodness, you guys are in GNC stores, you're in Walmarts. The company is, it started this week at a $10 million market cap, projected revenues of $4 million in 2020. I mean, you guys are at this early stage, but positioned for, lots of growth based on where you guys are right now. I mean, talk to us a little bit about this and, what the plans are for the business.
Yeah, I mean, I think we invented such a white space product, and we've done so well building an audience that Walmart and GNC reached out to us. In fact, funny story, I thought the Walmart inquiry was a joke. I thought somebody was messing with us. For those of you listening who haven't invested in Koios, and maybe you're evaluating this, to do what we've done in 1 year in food and beverage is unprecedented. It really is. To land those kind of retailers at that level, takes most companies 10 years. And so, yeah, and then, our financials just came out, sales went up 1,000% quarter over quarter. Our margins went up, we have almost zero debt on the books. And we're really poised for a big year. I think the company's undervalued. So obviously I think it's a good time to be involved. We're anticipating over 10,000 stores this year, up from 4. It's going to be a stretch. Obviously that's not a guarantee, but we have so much interest nationwide from DSDs to massive retailers that we think we can hit that target and hit over 4 million plus in revenue. And then into 2021, double digit, 10 million plus. So yeah, super exciting time for us. We're experiencing rapid growth. And it's really, really exciting. It's a testament to our team and, how hard we've worked all the years prior that people didn't get to see. A lot of times we get asked in these interviews, what makes you competitive? And I would say, again, the white space product and the tech that went into building our beverage. It took us 4 years and millions of dollars. And, we have quite the moat around our SKU. So, it's really exciting.
So I'm outside of Austin. Whole Foods is a big deal out here. Natural grocers. Do you guys have your sights set on Whole Foods? What's the expansion potentially going to look like?
Yeah. So like I said, 4,000 to 10,000, that's obviously going to require a lot more name brand retailers. We've been having that conversation with Whole Foods for quite some time. We hope to execute on that in 2020. Same with the natural channel. I think for us, where our capital was or our cash position, for the first year, it was really about establishing relationships with Walmart and GNC. It can take a lot of time to build volume in those chains. So our focus for the first year was really those avenues. And, in 2020, we expect to expand aggressively into the natural channel, also while working with some of the biggest DSDs in the country. So like I said, 4,000 to 10,000 is something that we think is realistic. And when I say 10,000, I mean 10,000 doors, 10,000 places you could walk in and find Koios or Fit Soda.
Chris, so from a valuation perspective, I mean, we were talking about a $10 million market cap valuation. I mean, what can investors take from that? What can when they hear that, is there any sort of metrics that you could give them to say, hey, this is some of the things to look forward to and why it could be a potential early stage opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we're a little undervalued. I think if you do the math on 10,000 stores and 4 million in revenues being a fairly conservative estimate on what we'll do in revenues, if you were to give that a multiple of 5 to 10 times, which is what drink companies get sold for, you can do the math on this year and what we'll be valued at in the future.
Chris Miller, you're a rock star. If people want to learn more about you, your company, what the company is doing, kind of stay up to date on things, please let them know where they can go and what they can expect to find.
Yeah, I mean, number one, I would say obviously do some research on the trends. If you look at what we're doing with Fit Soda and what Beyond Burger's done. You know, they raised 400 million. What Halo Top's going to do 400 million this year. You know, companies that are innovating better for you products that also taste good, are sort of dominating the landscape. I think the food and beverage space is almost like tech back in the day. There's so much innovation and so many people are concerned about the environment and our health that it's an exploding space. So even if it's not Koios, I'd encourage you to look into food and beverage and people who are really innovating in that space. For information on Koios, you can go to koiosbeveragecorp.com. Our investor tab, we have our investor deck. We have videos. We have all of our latest press releases. And we also have a team of people that you can speak to on the phone if you're interested in participating in Koios that can walk you through the process. So, and all that information is on koiosbeveragecorp.com on the investor tab.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Chris, for coming on Crush the Street and sharing your company with us and educating us on really this trend. We don't really talk about this a lot here at Crush the Street, but we do talk about money trends. And this is something I do feel strongly about, that it's basically science, it's technology, it's an increasing amount of opportunity, because this is not something that's just going to be a fad and go away. So,
and what a cool thing to be a part of, right? Like, you're obviously being a part of something that's tangible. It's helping people live healthier lives. It's not like an obscure technology. It's pretty neat. Yeah, I think it's a neat opportunity.
It's a good time to be alive. That's for sure.
It is.
So thanks so much, man.
Thanks, buddy.